All right, Rob, you and I have ranted and raved about load management for a lot of nights on this show. And Steph Curry addressed the issue, and I give him credit, Rob, for addressing it because we haven't heard many players address it. And he addressed it last night. I guess it was Rob G after their game. They got a win. But here's Steph talking about it.
I usually campaign to play every game, so that's the misconception about load management and how it goes. It's never the player that's usually saying, hey, I want to sit. So for all those people that are worried about that part of our league and all that, it's usually not the player that's going to the training staff and saying, hey, I don't have it tonight. It's usually the other way around, and there's a lot of science involved. So, yes, I will campaign to play, but we'll see how it goes.
Rob, I agree with him. I'm not saying every time. I think Kawhi Leonard, obviously has wanted to sit out and stuff. But I've talked to people around the league, and these are a lot of teams. These teams are they say it before the season. They will go through the schedule and pick out games that certain players like stars aren't going to play. And now like you said, I guess you're going to say the player can always override it or whatever. But I think this is where the league needs to step in, Rob. Because if your own teams are essentially saying, Rob, an 82-game schedule is too much. We can't play it in the 6-month period that the season is. Then you either have to cut the games or you have to tell them, look, we've been playing 82 games for years. Kevin Garnett, Jason Kidd, Karl Malone, John Stockton, Michael Jordan, so on and so forth, had extended careers, long careers, and they played 82 games for the most part throughout their careers. So guys can play. You have to make one or the other. They have to decide. Not, Rob, we've talked about the difficulty of settling this issue. If indeed Steph is right, and I think he is, that it is the teams, that's easier for the league to settle than if it's just players like, yo, I'll fake an injury. I need a break. I got back spasms tonight, which you can't prove. So I actually think if this is true, this does give the league a better chance of solving the issue.
I'm going to say boo on Steph for basically passing the buck off on the teams. I just don't believe, Chris, and I'm going to say it, if Steph Curry wanted to play every game or play all 82 games, there's no way the Warriors could stop him. I don't believe it. The league has been around for a long time. Guys have played 82 games. Chris, or you might play 80 in a season or 79. That's fine. I just don't buy it. I don't care what the science is.
But do you believe that teams are suggesting to players like, look, you should sit out this game?
Yeah, suggesting it, but they couldn't make him. Chris, I don't know. If Michael Jordan was playing today, I just don't believe he would be taken off.
Look, I agree with that. Jordan fought to play as many games as he could.
You remember when he was hurt, when he was injured, he fought his way back. They told him to take out the rest of the season.
I agree with you that if Steph or any other star player was like, look, I am not sitting out. However, two things can be true. That doesn't mean that the team isn't saying and recommending. And Steph even mentioned, I don't know if it was in our quote, but he says there's a lot of science to it. I'm sure these trainers are saying, look, Steph, our science, I don't know what term they're using, but tells us if you go tonight, there's a better chance of you getting hurt in this game or the next game or this week or something like that. And, a lot of times a guy will go with the trainer. I get it. I think Jordan would be a problem nowadays because he'd be like, look, I'm playing. And I respect that. But I do think the teams deserve a lot of the blame. And you're right. They can override them. And
can I give you an example of a guy who does it? Dame Lillard, Chris. He has said that the team tells him before the season that they've identified a handful of games they think he should sit out. And guess what? But once the games arrive, he usually overrides them, and he says he's playing. you can play if you really want to. Kevin
But Dame's
Durant,
a guy, Rob, that played 29 games last year.
no, but I'm just saying
he hasn't played 70 games since 2019.
Kevin Durant didn't play. Kevin Durant played what 4 playoff games last year. He still wound up getting hurt this year. Like there's no magic formula
No,
about.
I agree.
About if you only play 68 games instead of 82, you're going to be fresh in the postseason, or you're going to be healthy, or you're not going to get injured. I don't know what the science. They'd have to show me what science they're talking about, because I keep seeing guys get hurt. I keep seeing guys load manage. Chris, what is it? They still get hurt.
They're right. We've talked about that ad nauseum, and I agree. I mean, we had a guy on last week who was like, look, and we've had several, Rob, tell us this.
Right.
They're not building up the resistance, the body getting used to the building up the resistance to the level of stress that you put on your body in an NBA game or, in the NBA playoffs. So because you don't build up that tolerance anymore, because you don't practice as hard, you don't play as often in games, you aren't ready when the heat is turned up and you get hurt. I believe that. Rob, we've heard it from pitchers about why guys are getting injured more.
Right.
We've heard it from basketball doctors and trainers. I totally agree with you, but I do think there is science that these trainers are showing the players and the teams and saying, look, so-and-so is better off going 65 games this year. So these are the 17 he shouldn't play. And my thing is, Rob, if that's the case, and I think it is, then good. Because the league can now go to the teams and say, get rid of that science. We either cutting the games or we're guys are going to play 80 games.
I'll tell you this right now, I had some odds with David Stern about some of the stuff he did. I didn't like the wardrobe.
He ruled with
thing.
an iron fist.
Okay, but Chris, I'll say this. I don't believe this would be going on if he was still a commissioner of the NBA.
I agree.
I don't.
I totally agree.
I do not believe he would allow the league to shortchange the networks, Chris, who are paying a lot of money for games, shortchange the fans who are people are struggling, Chris, to buy tickets to go to a game once or twice a year. This isn't a thing where when we were growing up and tickets were $15 to get into a game or whatever. You're talking about hundreds of dollars for people who are, and then $50 to park and $10 for a Coke and $15 for French fries. I mean, it's a lot of money to go out and enjoy yourself.
Yeah,
and to do that to fans, right, is not fair.
It's terrible. Rob,
and if you give them their money back, if you say within 24 hours you let me know, I know it ain't gonna happen, but then I would feel better that people could opt out of it. That's all I want to be. Let the fans opt out of the game the way that you're opting players out of the game. That's all. That's it.
I hear you, Rob. Last night the Lakers played in Brooklyn and they're playing New York tonight. How many people do you think bought tickets to that game before the season or early in the season? Said, man, I want to see LeBron and AD. Even AD, hey, he may be hurt, but I get to see LeBron. And then you go last night, and obviously LeBron.
That's their one trip to Brooklyn.
LeBron has been an Iron Man throughout his career. He has generally played. So I don't put him in the groups of these guys, and he's in his 20th year. That's a little different. But Rob, I mean, you got young guys, Rob, just sitting out because the trainers or the team is telling them to. And Rob, again, to me, this is good news because the team can figure that, or the league can figure that out. Like you said, David Stern would figure that out.
He would.
I'm telling the teams, you're getting fined.
You remember he fined Pop
these guys to sit out
$250,000 when he sat out 4 players in that big Miami game, Chris, which was a national game. He sent them all home on a commercial flight from Miami instead of playing them, and Stern was pissed.
Rob, it feels like 2 out of every 3 big games on TV, right? Big games on TV are missing one of the stars. Whether it's because he's hurt or whether it's because he's just sitting out for rest. But it really feels, that's not scientific, but that's what it feels like when there's so many games. It's like, man, this is a good one. And then you find out the star's not playing. So it's bad, man. And I hope they can get this thing settled. We're gonna throw it out to you guys. Do you agree with Steph Curry that it's the teams, not so much the players, that are behind all this load management?
Tyson in Austin, Texas. You're on the Odd Couple, Fox Sports Radio. What up, Tyson?
Yo, what's going on, fellas? First time
brother?
caller, long time listener.
Thank you.
Good to have you, man.
Appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I think it's a bunch of hogwash that Steph is talking about because just like during the pandemic, these guys was complaining that they had nowhere to work out. And we're dealing with millionaires. You know what I'm saying? You know, this is their profession, right? And so like it's imperative that they take that money and invest in their health and fitness, build their bodies up so that they can perform at the highest level, you know? So him saying that that the trainers are suggesting that they take a time off, I think that's a bunch of hogwash.
So you think he's just straight up lying?
Yeah.
Nah, come on, man.
Yeah.
Because
He's
just
proven
like how
himself to
when,
be a man
you know,
of integrity.
When they're talking about
he ain't
science,
getting up there
there's
just
also
lying.
science should be able to. There's also science out there that should be able to tell them how they could play 82 games instead of.
I can
All right,
tell
thanks,
you for
Tyson.
a fact
Thank you.
from talking to
Appreciate the
people in the
call.
league, they do have numbers and data that are telling them players need to take days off. Now, we can disagree with that, but I'm just saying that is true.
But
That
here's
they're
my
telling them something.
my issue, Chris, is what's the benefit? People are still getting hurt.
Supposedly
people are
rest.
still getting
I
tired
agree with you, Rob,
in the
but I'm just
postseason.
saying-
That's what I understand what you're
But
saying.
don't you think
but
you don't think I think you believe that some of these trainers are saying that.
No, I do.
And showing
But I'm
them
saying
data.
the results don't match. Is
No,
what
I
I'm saying.
agree.
If you
but
could
baseball is the same thing.
it's ridiculous. And,
The
and we
results
talk
don't
about,
show that you can't, throw more than 70 pitches a game.
Right. It doesn't make any sense when you know guys, Chris, pitched 300 innings.
Right.
We talked about it.
Absolutely.
Dwight Gooden had 18, Chris, complete games in a season. Some guys will never have 18 complete games in their career.
But some?
Right.
Most.
Right.
Most.
He had
Rob,
18.
wouldn't you? I think most, maybe half of the pitchers won't have a complete game in their careers.
Right. It might not
Of
the
the
way it's
starters.
going.
Right.
You got to pitch up, Chris. You could be pitching a perfect game and not be able to complete
We've
it.
seen it. So I agree with you. I'm just saying I do think the science, they're being shown this science because you see it in baseball and basketball.
No doubt. Let's go to Gary in Houston. You're on the Odd Couple, Fox Sports Radio.
Yeah, I don't think Steph is lying, but I think he's brainwashed because to me the science and stuff is not in good faith. Because if you cut the season, they're still going to do it because they know they can. It's accepted. And
Yeah, I agree with that.
Like I remember years ago, the Brooklyn Nets rested players like the last game of the season. And like it's a shame when you see players in the NFL like Winston playing through cracked ribs and these guys can't play NBA games.
No, I
it's
get it.
it's ridiculous. And I'm not it's strenuous, of course, but there's no Rob. It's maddening, and
Can
they
you
need to be
can you-
honest. They need to be honest with their consumers.
That's all. Just be honest. And you know what, Chris? If teams are sitting down and mapping out games before the season, you should put on your thing that Steph Curry's not
Right.
playing this game.
That's a good point.
That's all.
If you already know,
if you
then tell
already
us.
know,
Yep.
then tell the consumer these games are games that he's not going to play. If I'm in Cleveland, Chris, and I saved up my money or I wanted to buy my kid a Christmas present to take him to see Steph, and they say on the schedule or whatever they send out, Steph Curry's not playing that game, then I know to stay clear. That's all.
No
all right,
doubt.
let's squeeze in Andre in Massachusetts as well. You're on the Odd Couple, Fox Sports Radio. What up, Dre?
How you doing? Thanks for taking the call. Listen, Rob, you're 100% right. Honesty is the best policy. And here's what it comes down to. Great players do not believe in load management. Great players don't believe in load management, and that's the end of the story. You take Nikola Jokic, 2 MVPs. He's played in 91% of his games since coming into the NBA.
That's a
Giannis,
perfect example.
Giannis, also, 2 more MVPs. He's played in 88% of his games since coming into the NBA. So these analysts for the teams, they got numbers, they got stats. That's great. So did Bernie Madoff. Okay, at the end of the day, great players do not believe in load
But see,
management.
I think Andre going forward, you're gonna see Giannis sitting out a little here or there now this season. You know, you've even seen Jokic do it. So,
but their numbers are way higher, 91%.
No, they have been, but I think if this isn't put to a stop, Rob, I think it's going to happen. Even those guys. I mean, heck, Giannis too. He hadn't played 70 games, Rob, since 2019. Some of that's probably injury, but still, don't tell me he hadn't been low managed.
Injury is something else.
And his minutes are always low.
I'm not mad at people get injured. Like Kevin Durant's injured. Last year, Kevin Durant, I remember that, seeing that, Chris, when he got injured. I was at the game that he got injured. And was I bummed out? Yeah. I mean, I'm flying from L.A. That's my only game in Brooklyn that year. You know what I mean? I had great seats. I paid $300-something to sit up close. And
you're super rich. No, imagine the common man that you forgot about.
I cried like a baby because he wasn't in the game.